When Scarface exploded onto screens in 1983, it shocked audiences. But the real chaos happened behind the camera. Al Pacino's fake cocaine permanently damaged his nose. Steven Spielberg secretly directed one scene, and one young actress mysteriously vanished right after filming, never to be seen again. From Michelle Pfeiffer's painful audition to real DEA horror stories that inspired the script, the making of Scarface was just as wild as the movie itself. Here are 15 weird facts most fans never noticed, and wait until you hear the last one. Fact 1. A modern remake of a 1932 classic. Yes, Scarface is actually a remake. Long before the violent 1983 classic we all know, there was the 1932 original, produced by Howard Hughes and based on a 1929 novel loosely inspired by the life of Al Capone. So before we had this Tony Montana, we had that Antonio Camonte. The first film didn't take place in Miami or follow Cuban refugees. It focused on the Italian mafia in Chicago, where Antonio clawed his way to the top of the underworld. Like the 1983 version, his downfall came from obsession and jealousy over his sister, a fatal flaw that mirrored the same destructive passion later seen in Tony Montana. But the storytelling was different. In the 1932 version, Antonio meets his end just as he reaches the peak of power, while in the 83 remake, Tony's rise happens midway through, letting us witness the full, flashy collapse of his empire. And here's a fun detail. Paul Muni, who played Antonio, was terrifying in his own right. Before committing some of his worst acts, he would let out a slow, chilling whistle. Just imagine Al Pacino doing that before every hit in the 1983 Scarface. Now that would have been unsettling. Fact 2. The powder myth. There's a long-running myth that Al Pacino was actually snorting real cocaine while filming Scarface. In reality, the white powder was nothing more than powdered milk. Director Brian De Palma has never revealed exactly what the mixture was, but even the fake stuff took its toll. Pacino later admitted it caused him nasal problems that lasted for years. "I've had things up in there," he joked in a 2015 interview. "I don't know what happened to my nose, but it's changed." Fact 3. X marks the spot. One thing's for sure, Scarface doesn't hold back. The violence and profanity were so intense that it originally earned an X rating, forcing major cuts to secure an R. But director Brian De Palma had a sneaky side. He quietly released a few uncut prints to theaters without the censors knowing. Ironically, what bothered the ratings board most wasn't the chainsaw scene, but a clown getting shot in the nightclub. Apparently, blood was fine, as long as it didn't come from a clown. Fact 4. Insane amount of F-bombs. Scarface definitely doesn't shy away from profanity. It drops an incredible 226 F-bombs throughout the film. Then again, it's a story about ruthless gangsters, not a polite dinner party, so the language only adds to its gritty realism. If you walked out of a theater in 1983 swearing more than usual, you probably just saw Scarface. And believe it or not, the F-word wasn't the only problem the censors had. Which brings us to the next point. Fact 5. Miami Says Number Scarface takes place in Miami, shown as a wild, violent city ruled by drug dealers and chainsaw-wielding gangsters. Not exactly a travel ad for sunny Florida. That harsh portrayal didn't sit well with local officials. The Miami Tourist Board refused to let the crew film there, worried the movie would scare away visitors. As a result, most of Scarface was actually shot in Los Angeles, which stood in for Miami's tropical streets. Thankfully, there's no sign the film ever hurt the city's real tourism. Fact 6. Oliver Stone's real-life addictions. As the story unfolds, Tony Montana spirals deeper into cocaine addiction. His paranoia grows, his temper explodes, and eventually, he loses all control. For all his violence and ego, it's still painful to watch his collapse. In a way, art mirrored life. Screenwriter Oliver Stone was fighting his own drug addiction while writing Scarface, and that struggle may have fueled the film's raw intensity. Out of that chaos came something powerful, a brutally honest portrait of addiction, ambition, and the cost of chasing power. Fact 7. Tony Montana and the dreaded pineapple. When Scarface aired on TV, the censors went wild. Every F-word had to go. Even Tony's iconic interrogation line, "Where'd you get the beauty scar, tough guy?" Eaten pineapple. Yes, pineapple. Apparently that was less offensive. The result? One of the funniest TV edits ever. You really have to see Tony Montana talking about juicing pineapple to believe it. And speaking of laughs, check this out. My Scarface in your pocket gadget. Press a button, and you get Tony's best quotes. Brilliant. Fact 8. Spielberg briefly steps in. The final shootout in Scarface is pure chaos. Tony Montana going out in a blaze of bullets and fury as his enemies storm the mansion. It's one of the most unforgettable endings in movie history. But here's a little-known fact. Steven Spielberg was on set that day. The legendary director dropped by during filming and even shot one of the camera angles used in the scene. So the next time you watch that explosive finale, remember, a tiny piece of it was directed by Spielberg himself. Good thing he didn't sneak E.T. in to heal the gangsters saying, "Ouch." Fact 9. Casting possibilities. It's hard to imagine anyone but Al Pacino as Tony Montana. He completely owns the role. But believe it or not, Robert De Niro was first considered for the part. For Tony's right-hand man, Manny, the studio's top choice was John Travolta. He even met with Pacino but ultimately passed, paving the way for Stephen Bauer, who made the role his own. And when it came to Elvira, Tony's glamorous but doomed love interest, the studio wanted Glenn Close. Pacino, however, pushed for Michelle Pfeiffer. Director Brian De Palma wasn't convinced at first, mostly because Pfeiffer's biggest credit at the time was Grease 2, but after her audition she proved everyone wrong. And the rest, as they say, is movie history. Fact 10. The word Scarface is only used once in the movie. Believe it or not, the word Scarface is only said once in the entire movie, and it's easy to miss because it's in Spanish. Early on, during the infamous chainsaw scene, the drug dealer taunts Tony and calls him cara cicatriz, which translates to Scarface. That's it. The only time anyone ever calls him by the name that became legendary. Fact 11. Brian De Palma nearly directed a very different movie. Before directing Scarface, Brian De Palma was actually lined up for a very different project, Flashdance. Yes, really. He almost went from a movie about a woman dancing in water to one about a man drowning in cocaine. Talk about a career pivot. Originally, Scarface was supposed to be directed by Sidney Lumet, but he reportedly hated the script and walked away, which turned out to be a blessing in disguise. It's wild to think how different De Palma's path could have been. Instead of bullets and Miami mayhem, we might have gotten leg warmers and dance montages. Fact 12. Michelle Pfeiffer's extreme diet. Fresh off Grease 2, Michelle Pfeiffer went all in to play Elvira, Tony Montana's glamorous but broken coke-addicted girlfriend. To capture that frail, hollow look, she reportedly survived on nothing but tomato soup and cigarettes, enduring the harsh diet for what was supposed to be a 3-month shoot that dragged on to 6. Fact 13. Tony's little friend was a custom weapon. Tony's famous little friend was actually a Colt AR-15 fitted with a fake M203 grenade launcher. When prop makers couldn't get their hands on a real one, they built it from scratch, and their handiwork paid off. The same custom weapon later made a comeback in Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Fact 14. Scarface found success on home video. When Scarface first hit theaters, critics panned it, and it barely made back its budget. But everything changed once it hit VHS. Priced at nearly $80 a copy, it sold over 100,000 units, turning the once-failed film into a massive cult hit and a full-blown pop culture icon. Fact 15. Al Pacino trained with a boxing legend. To truly embody Tony Montana, Al Pacino threw himself into training, learning knife techniques and working with boxing legend Roberto Duran to get in fighting shape. And while his accent became a running joke over the years, Pacino actually studied a Cuban dialect with the help of a language coach and guidance from his co-star, Steven Bauer. And there you have it. 15 weird, wild, and downright fascinating facts about Scarface, 1983, that most fans never noticed. From powdered milk, cocaine, to Spielberg's secret cameo, it's clear this film is packed with surprises even after 4 decades. Now we want to hear from you. Which Scarface fact shocked you the most? Or did we miss one that deserves a mention? Let us know in the comments below. See you next time.